Attention! The National Weather Service has issued a hurricane warning for the entirety of the National Hockey League. Please stay tuned for further information from the Storm Cellar.
Welcome back to the Storm Cellar Maple Leaf Edition, David Ayer's Anniversary Game Edition. We are in the Air Canada signature club. You have to walk past the Platinum Club and those losers to get to the Air Canada Club, which is where we're dining tonight. All thanks to one of our special guests. So I feel about as good as I felt in a long time. This is not quite birth of my son or marriage to my wife kind of good, but maybe number 4.
I've seen one game here where Carolina played and won. We are 1-0 on games that I've attended.
There you go.
In Toronto. So we'll say that works for us.
Walking on
but
real wood.
This is real wood. And this is unbelievable. And we are here with 2 guests, a round table, if you will. We've done this once before with more guests, but one of these guests actually was part of the round table and is back for his 3rd episode with us.
Did not scare him off.
Didn't scare him off. ElJay Camponi, who lives just north of me in Calgary. Well, he's in Airdrie, but we include them in Calgary. ElJay, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. It's pretty incredible, this place. I am very much looking forward to the game tonight. It's going to be fun.
And he's rocking the O'Neill 02 sweater.
I know, right?
I got to point that out.
That's gonna turn some heads. That's going to turn some heads here in Toronto.
I hope O-Dog sees this. I hope it makes him mad.
And but we have to thank the one person that made this all happen for us.
That would be wise, right?
Yeah. Beth Cheever. Beth.
Also former guest.
Which
I'll link to her episode when we air this.
There you go. That's why you're the brains. Beth messaged us a while back and said, "Hey guys, I need some hired goons to give me, some protection when I go to Toronto to watch the Canes play and whip some butt." And I said,
the Toronto suits can get rough. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
It's a rough crowd.
And yeah, I went full Homer Simpson and said, "Hired goons." But we are. I mean, the muscle that we have at the table is going to scare everyone off. But Beth, there's no way we could possibly thank you enough for the opportunity, not only for where we are for the game, but the signature club, Air Canada signature.
The trip, the whole experience. I mean, this doesn't happen without Beth.
It doesn't happen without Beth. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm grateful for you guys coming. I'd love to take credit for it. The tickets were the tickets from my big boss at work.
Thanks, big boss.
Who very generously allows, he knows I'm a huge Canes fan. He's obviously a Toronto season ticket holder, and he doesn't hold it against me. And he generously gifted me these tickets. And I really appreciate you guys coming. It's so fun to share this experience with you. And yeah, this lounge I hadn't been here before. It's a little over the top, but I think it's pretty cool, and it's a cool place to do this podcast.
I'm not a drinker, but if I sold all the booze on the wall, I could retire. I'm pretty sure I could pay off my mortgage and move somewhere really warm and nice.
Yeah, this is just absolutely incredible. Our seats will be even better. But all of that is coming up. We got to talk some hockey. And normally in the episode, we get a chance to talk about our guests. We shine the spotlight on the Caniacs. And as both of our guests have joined us, I don't want to skip it because it's really who we are.
Yeah, an update. I like to think of it as, what have you done since?
Yeah, exactly. So the last time, if you guys remember the last time, tell us what's been going on in your life. Tell us all about it. We want to hear.
Well, for myself, and just in terms of my Caniac fandom, I watched our Canes play both games in Alberta. First, I went up to Edmonton with my cousin in tow and watched Carolina come back and win that game in overtime after being down, I believe, 3-1 at one point. And came back
right.
and won the fishy snipe.
Beauty.
It was a beauty. My cousin ran off in a huff after the game. It was quite comical. And then I took my son with me, I think it was the following night in Calgary for the game there, and Carolina pulled it off there as well. So they got the Alberta sweep. It was a fun couple of days. So that's kind of the update since the last time I've been on the podcast. And been following the team like I always do closely through the season. They're having another good year, and we'll see how the second half of the season goes here.
Yeah, it's 26 games left, right? 25 after tonight, so it's going to be a real race. But we promise we'll get to that, Beth.
And it's I think it's 26 games in 52 days. So
That's
it's
amazing.
an incredible pace. So since the last time I was on, my favorite player was traded, Martin Necas.
Oops.
I'm
Thanks for bringing up bad memories, Ray.
I'm excited that he has an opportunity to show his skills in Colorado, which he's obviously already doing. The most interesting thing I did was I went to Game 5 at Madison Square Garden, where I really could have used some hired goons.
Man.
You guys can try out for that role.
Okay.
I was there with a couple of accountants who were just kind of ducking their heads. But the outcome of the game was great, so that was exciting. And I will say also that I am also 1-0 in Toronto. They won the game I went to last year against the Cloverleafs. It was the St. Patrick's Day game where they're wearing the Cloverleaf uniforms, and that was an incredibly exciting victory. So hopefully we'll see something like that tonight.
Would love to see that tonight, and certainly with our seats and all of us standing, someone's going to see us, and it's going to be fantastic.
We're hard to miss.
So,
should we mention who we saw on the way in?
sorry. Yes, we should actually. How crazy was this? Go ahead. I don't even know what to say.
Well, just as we were walking around the arena to find our way in, a couple of Canes players walked across our path, including Jacob Slavin, KK, and I didn't see who else.
I think it might have been Roslovic.
I recognized KK. I was like, and I mean, even before that, and you know, do we even mention him? He's been so hard on the Whalers.
He has. I think we have to though.
Okay, go ahead, ElJay. You can say it.
You and I both kind of looked at. We did a double take, and I think we know who that is, but we didn't want to. We both kind of looked at each other, and then once we both had that same idea running in our head, okay, yeah, that's who we thought it was. The former general manager of the Hartford Whalers, Brian Burke.
Yeah. It was Berkey.
It was
We've been talking to the police.
Yeah.
I'm like,
He's
no.
Not too
Oh, is that
well-
when we stopped?
yeah.
Yes.
He's
That
not
was
too
Berkey.
well liked with the past Whaler fans because he kind of thought the famous goal song that they still play and will be played at Whaler night at the next home game, I believe, against the Buffalo Sabres. He actually axed the song for a couple of years. He thought it was like a Mickey Mouse unprofessional thing, which he was completely wrong about. But anyway, long story.
How can you
long story
axe
trades. but-
Brass Bonanza?
Right.
I mean, that's absolutely beautiful.
Exactly.
What the heck is
Iconic.
To be fair, Berkey is one of the really good guys in hockey, though.
He is.
So it balances out.
Yes.
It does.
Because even my kid would tell him that, like, you ask Brass Bonanza, like, the heck's wrong with you?
Yeah, and properly so.
Yeah.
So, as we let's jump into this. We've got all these great appetizers. As you may remember, in the round table that we had in Calgary, the food was being served and we were eating and talking and just totally laid back, totally not scripted, totally not edited.
No,
So
you're
when you
getting whatever
hear me
comes out of
going,
our
"Oh
mouth.
my God, this food is so good. Can you believe this?" It'll be, again, thanks to Beth again, but it'll be just, you'll understand. We're trying to paint a picture for you.
It's
in
like
this particular
we've talked a lot
episode.
about Dungeons and Dragons lately. If I
We
could
have.
paint you a picture of the
Yeah.
aromas and the scene here, you would be jealous.
So
it
we'll
smells
be,
amazing.
and so we'll be helping ourselves as we go to this, and you guys get started, and I'll kind of lead into the next topic. So, Four Nations is complete. And there was so much talk about Four Nations. Is this going to be as good as the All-Star game? Are you going to have people playing? And, there was the rub, right? The All-Star game was unwatchable because it was unplayable. There were guys who just did not want to play the game, and they showed up, and they didn't put any effort in. And the All-Star game was so-and-so. Four Nations changed all of that in a huge way. And of course, Hurricanes fans were very excited for it because we had four of the best in it. Seth Jarvis, Jacob Slavin,
who we just met, Bessie's, my new Bessie.
That we're good friends. Sebastian Aho, and of course Nico Rotman. Before we talk about the final game, because that's really all anyone wanted to talk about, was Canada-US. What is your take? And we'll start with whoever wants to start. What was your take on the way Hurricanes played in this one?
Whose mouth is not full? Go.
Yeah, whoever wants to start. Let's focus on the Hurricanes before we look at the countries.
I will say, I thought watching the games involving Finland, it appeared Aho and Rantanen kind of struggled. I was kind of hoping they were going to find a little chemistry together. They didn't always run on the same line, but they worked in the power play a few times. I do recall the very last game against Canada where they mounted a bit of a ferocious comeback. At the time, it probably would have made a major difference. It's probably just scored the empty netter to make it a 4-2 game, I believe it was. But he literally all had a wide open net, getting to dead to rights, and he literally shot the puck wide. He just threw his head up in the air like he could not believe. Like, it just seemed like he had a rough tournament, which is unfortunate. But so that's kind of my impressions of those two. Let's hopefully they got a little bit extra time off since they got eliminated a little bit early in the tournament, so they'll come out guns a-blazing tonight. Jakob Slavin just reaffirmed everything that we as Canes fans have known for the past, 7 years, how long he's been in the league. He is by far the best defensive defenseman in the NHL. He doesn't get the credit because he's not a big goal scorer or point getter like Cale Makar, but there's no better anchor defenseman in the league right now. And I actually had a few buddies in Canada who, after watching that tournament and seeing how well he played in the 2 games against Canada, were like, holy smokes, he ever a great defenseman. But they don't recognize or realize because, again, not a point scorer, he plays in the Carolina market, they don't follow. So the league is now on notice, they know how good he is. And then obviously Austin Matthews kind of was a bit of a go on the last play there, leaving McDavid unchecked or unmarked for the game-winning goal in overtime. But he didn't score in the tournament, but I think he averaged a full point a game, or a little bit better than that, so he still did pretty well. But and then obviously we got Mitch Marner. He set up the winner. I think he had two assists in the championship game, so he did pretty well and found some chemistry there on the top line. And and Seth Jarvis played really well. He had a couple of jam goal or chances on the gold medal game, but just couldn't quite bury it. But he was all over being on the fourth line, and it was pretty effective. And I know that 3-on-1 chance that he had, where he pretty much prime opportunity to score a goal, and Slavin pulled off one of his tricks again there with the diving block on the pass, and it was just a totally incredible defensive play. Just again reaffirmed how good Slavin is as a player. So it was an incredible tournament. I thought especially the guys that played in the championship final played amazing. It's an awesome tournament overall, and that was my impression. So.
Yeah.
I agree with just about everything you said. I thought on Finland, I thought Rantanen had a decent tournament. I thought he played pretty well, but that team just never really seemed together because it's not like Barkov had a great tournament, and nobody stuck out on that team as performing particularly well, and Aho included. He didn't really do anything. What I thought was great about Slavin, the kind of moment for me, was I went to the USA game in Boston, and I had seats close to the front, and there were at warm-ups there were all these little kids who were clearly not North Carolinians yelling Slavin's name. Like it was clear that he has made a name for himself in the league through that tournament, and I'm really happy for him. And it's a great showcase for players, because for me, a bunch of the players that stuck out for me as exceptional that I didn't really know that much about were some of the Minnesota Wild. Like, I thought every single one of those players, Eric Sedek on Sweden, Faber obviously was incredible, and Boldy, I thought they all played really well, and they're in a similar kind of place as the Canes, where that's a small market team. We don't see them much on the East, and they really stepped out. I think the tournament was great for that. I think Jarvis played well. We didn't see much of him. He didn't get a lot of minutes, but he had a good tournament. I think he had a cool opportunity being on the Marchand line. I'm kind of warmed up to Brad Marchand, particularly after the team was announced, and there was a lot of criticism of the team choosing Jarvis. And the first thing Marchand did when they asked him who he was excited to play with, he said Jarvis. And I thought that was a really, really cool leadership thing to do. And it just kills me to have to like Marchand now, but after that I do. And I thought he played well. And I thought he played well with Jarvis.
He absolutely did, and I'm with you. Like, that was the one thing that I always fall back on when people would criticize Seth Jarvis's selection, and you say, Brad Marchand, who is, whether we like it or not, going to the Hall of Fame, said that he was very excited to play with him. You think maybe he knows just a little bit about these guys? Like, it made no sense, the criticism. Brad, you got a chance to go to a game as well, Canada-Finland.
I did.
Tell us about that one.
So, I initially was also going to buy tickets to the finals, and I should have, because I could have bought them for $100 a pop.
They were cheap.
I could have sold them for $1,000.
They were cheap before the tournament started.
Yes, please.
And how's everybody doing with their island drinks? Would you like another one? How'd you like it?
I love it, and I would like another one.
Perfect. Anybody else want a second one? Are you guys okay for right now? Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The things that stuck out to me for Finland, Canada, I completely agree. The Finnish team, their strength, because their entire population, their entire country, is less than that of Boston, of Greater Boston. And you could only pick NHLers. So to begin with, you only have 11 NHL defensemen you can even pick for your team. And then 3 of them, including 2 of your big guys, get hurt. So Heiskanen and Ristolainen are out.
Hopenpää was the other.
Yep, and what Finland has is the closeness, the camaraderie, right? They're a team just as soon as they get together, right? They don't have to work at it, it feels like. But I feel like losing your 3 top guys or 3 of your 4 top defensemen before the tournament starts, and you already know that, you might have some struggles defensively, I think it just never quite gelled. Like, they had some flashes of brilliance. I will say this. If you watch the Canada-Finland game, or if you look at the box scores, it sounds like a boring game. And Canada was completely in control, right? Then Finland makes it 4-1 or 3-1, and ends up being 4-1. But did Finland give up? No. In the last 5 minutes, Granlund scores 2, and I was surrounded by people pulling for Canada, and I was like one of the lone Suomi voices in my section.
Right.
And there were a lot of people very, very nervous all of a sudden when it became 4-3. Very nervous. They were like, we might lose this game. And it wasn't it's just close. It was we legitimately, there's a minute and a half to go. Like, we could lose this game in the last 5 minutes. So the whole game, maybe for Finland, they didn't put it all together. But is that a hockey? Like, in 10 years, when you ask me about 4 nations, I'm going to be like, there's a lot of good stuff. But let me tell you what Finland did in the last 5 minutes of this game. Because it was just one of those efforts that shows who they are. If they had a healthy defense, I think you're looking at a very different Finland-Canada game. I think you're even looking at a very different Finland-USA game, which they got shellacked on. I mean, the USA put on a clinic. But we said going into it, who's the best team in this tournament? The USA by far. Yeah. Who's the second best team? Canada by quite a bit, right? And then it comes down to, is it Sweden or Finland? Most people said Sweden. I didn't think so. Turned out to be right. Lucky me. But it was not an epic game, but in some aspects, if you were there and you saw the comeback and you felt the exhilaration in the arena, you would go, yeah, it was an epic game. Because the Canadian fans they were legit shaky. And the Finnish fans got very loud and proud, and even though they lost, you go, hey, they battled back. Not only was it not a shutout, like they made it a legit game. And maybe if Saros starts that game, maybe it's different. But we both said,
short leash.
Yeah, short leash, and they had already swapped away from Saros once, so you don't want to necessarily go back to him. So I think the coach did the right thing. But
how many stops could Lankinen have made in that game against Canada?
Yeah,
like honestly, he had no chance. There was not a single soft one amongst them, and Canada just had it rolling and dominated that game against Finland for about 55 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then to watch it collapse the way it did. And like ElJay said, that shot by Aho, he may still be looking to the heavens. Like that's one that's might haunt him a little bit, or perhaps explains some of the, I don't want to say difficulty because he's played well, he's getting points, but people expect him to score. And on that one, I thought, well, this is a tie game, and suddenly he missed it. And he did what KK always does when he hits a post or whatever. It's that look skyward, like, how did I miss that?
Right.
That
should not have
been. So, sorry, my mistake.
No, all good. So, if I'm looking at just the Hurricanes on this one, Mikko Rantanen, Aho, they didn't play on the same line together until they were on the power play, which was all forwards. I've never seen in an event like this where they just go all forwards, and that was more out of necessity,
desperation,
than it was, and desperation. I thought, this might be good enough to work because the guys that they had out there were pretty talented. Never did, but it wasn't there. A quick show of hands. How tired were you of having to say, I told you so, when you had to talk about Jacob Slavin?
Not tired at all.
Not tired at all.
Yeah, I got a lot more in me.
I'm good. I suppose I have a lot more in me, but the over-under on how many times I had to say it was 60, and I was well over. I was well over. Yeah. It was unbelievable. How many times you had to say it? And
I'll leave the tartar for this.
And he earned it every time. Yeah, like people kept saying over and over again, "No, this Jacob Slavin guy, he's all right." And kept saying, "Have you been watching hockey? Have you seen a Carolina Hurricanes game? You should know how good he is. Like by far the best defenseman and look, this includes McCarr, this includes Taves, this includes, you think about all of the defensemen that were in there. They are all all-stars. You don't want to discredit any of them, but there was no one better than Slavin, and it wasn't even close.
Not at all.
The only fact that probably didn't really come out because it was such a short tournament as well is he is constantly facing the top lines of every team, which he did again in this tournament, so that was the same. But he does it consistently where he takes under 10 penalty minutes per season, which is incredible when you're lined up against and playing against the top line. So you think you're going to, a superstar will get a half step on him, you're going to have to hook him the hole and try to prevent a scoring chance. And he's always in the right spot. He knows how to gap. He doesn't get beat. It's incredible. And that's another stat that we all know. That's why he's in the Lady Bink consideration all the time, because he never takes penalties. He's just, and for his position and always facing the team's top lines and top players, it's an incredible feat.
This might be a new way to judge people. like I judge people by like, do you park your car in the center of a parking space or do you put it on the line and leave it?
Right.
If you proclaim to be a hockey expert, right? If you work for a national hockey affiliate or national sports affiliate, and you can't talk to me about Jacob Slavin, you really don't know hockey. That's my new line in the sand because people, the reporters and the writers are like, oh my God, this Jacob Slavin guy's really good. Like, yes, it's because we actually watch all the teams and not just the ones called New York and Chicago and Boston and Detroit and Montreal and Toronto. Like, there are other teams. Your original 6 died many, many, many years ago. And it's just amazing to me when, reporters like Greg W. are like, oh, this is like the resurgence of Jacob Slavin. Like, brother, look at his numbers. He hasn't gone anywhere. You don't write about him. That's the problem. Yeah, go ahead, Beth.
Well, I was just going to say, I saw this incredible stat. I might be getting this a little bit wrong, but only marginally. It was something like Jacob Slavin's career penalty minutes are fewer than Brady Tkachuk's in a season.
Not surprising.
It's something like 130 for Brady Tkachuk versus 92 career or something for Slavin. I might be a little bit wrong.
I was going to ask you if it was in one game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he has less penalties in his whole career than Tkachuk has in one game. And I need to get to Seth Jarvis. I was furious when he did not play against Finland. It made me
so mad.
Deserved to play in every game, and he got 1 assist, but he was everywhere on the ice. He played the full 200-foot game, which is why Brad Marchand, say what you will, if he plays a 200-foot game, maybe he gets under your nerves a little bit more, and he does.
He gets under my nerves a lot, right?
Yeah, there's no mistake there. But Seth Jarvis made a name for himself, and I hope that Hockey Canada is smart enough to understand how good he is and to bring him back. And when I was so frustrated with Hockey Canada until the final with John Cooper, who I said over and over and over again believed he was actually coaching Tampa instead of coaching Canada. I know there's the at the end, so maybe he got confused or whatever, I don't know. But it was so frustrating watching him double shift the top line with his default, like in the Saturday game against the U.S. It was your top line, and then he put Point between Cirelli and it doesn't even matter. It was the all Tampa line, and he kept rolling it out. In the meantime, Marchand and Jarvis are languishing on the bench when they should be out there wreaking havoc. And that's what they could have been doing, and didn't get the opportunity.
What's amazing, I think he was rolling it, the guys he knew for offense. For Team Canada, who has offense coming out I mean, the most high-powered offense in the tournament. What you need are the Marchands and the Jarvises, who are 200-foot defensive players, to help shut things down. Because although Jordan Binnington played an amazing finals, no offense to Binnington, we all know I'm a Binnington hater, he wasn't great. So you want to give him as much help as you can, and sticking Marchand and Jarvis out there just makes the opposition's time that much, their zone time that much more difficult. Yeah. So I didn't understand it, but, I mean, in the end, congrats to Canada. I mean, they got the job done.
Let's talk about the final.
Before we get there, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
What did you guys think of the officiating? There were hardly any penalties called.
I thought they were calling it very All-Star Game-esque instead of best on best. I agree. Assuming your assumption is that they were letting a lot slide. They were letting a lot slide.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there were a few in Canada, Finland. I'm like, that's a penalty. Like I was up in 326, row 14. I'm 1 row from the top, and I'm like, I can see that's a penalty. I do have new glasses, but
they're not.
But even without glasses, 100 yards closer, you should see that. Yeah, you're spot on.
I liked calling it looser. I like not seeing people in the box and not having the game decided that way.
Yeah.
You know,
The more international style, I think, is great. I love watching Olympic hockey for that reason. But there were a few times when I mean, not that it swung the game, but I was definitely confused.
I think there was one time in the final that the U.S. would have a lot to say about, and that was the too many men that went uncalled.
That was important.
Those are one of the ones that I thought, when you're taking penalties in these games, they had to be egregious, where there was no question.
That's what we mean
that
on the
it was-
Yeah.
Yes, please.
when there was no question it was going to be a penalty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And do you recall who was the one that made the mistake?
I wish I could remember.
It was Seth.
Was
He was
it?
the one who scrambled
Was
back
it
onto the
Seth?
bench. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah,
I'm like,
well-
he'll be benched the rest of the game.
And let's face it, that's something that the Hurricanes have had difficulties with all season long.
Oh my gosh.
How many too many men penalties have they had this season? I mean, it's
The
going to
goals
make
called back
Yeah,
for the offsides because there was a blade on the ice for a tenth of a second after zone. I mean,
yeah, that's a
Don't get me
that's
started.
That's a
Don't
whole
get me
other
started.
kettle of fish to open. But go ahead, LJ.
I was just going to add a little bit more on the Seth Jarvis thing if I can.
Sure.
So I was just looking at the stats of the last game. He had the second shortest amount of time on ice, 12 minutes and plus change. He had 3 hits, a shot. And what I liked is that almost on every shift that he did get, you actually noticed him on the ice. There
Yeah.
were several Canadian players I didn't know were even playing. They were just like they were non-factors.
Yeah.
So for the limited ice time he had, he was a factor. Even on the almost a bad mistake with too many men, he was a factor, right? But I think he definitely showed himself well for consideration for next year's Olympic team. I don't think he hurt himself at all. Then obviously experience is going to be huge.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the odds are, but I certainly hope that a certain other coach, also from the Notre Dame Hound program, gets consideration for being on the coaching staff. Because I have no idea how our illustrious Rob the Bod is not on that coaching staff.
How is he not, right?
And if he is, that will
I
obviously
mean,
help.
bring him in for strength and conditioning. If
Well,
nothing else,
even
you know,
that.
Anything
something,
else,
right?
yeah. He could probably still outwork every single one.
they'll get a bunch of free Pelotons, and you'll have a bunch of bikes.
Exactly. Let's move to the final, and just first of all say Binnington played the best 6 minutes of his life, and he did it at the right time. Now, I will say this: I didn't agree with John Cooper leaving him in, but you understand why he did. There was a lot of people that said, well, you've gone with him so far, he's not looked great, and now you've got the final. And John Cooper said, he's my guy. And it made sense because in the end, are you going to put Hill or Montembeault in net for one game? They've had no anything.
Not for a final.
And you can't do it for the final. If the tournament is long, then maybe, right? But Binnington, Canada has no business being the Four Nations champion. None. I mean, first of all, Slavin must have saved at least 4 goals on his own in that game.
Pineapple to the stick of Sidney Crosby. They didn't even get a
Could
shot.
you
away
believe
from
that?
wide open net.
Wide open net, and it's Crosby in front, and every Canadian is saying goal.
Yeah.
And I was the one saying, that's Slavin in front? No, it's not a goal. And it doesn't matter who we have. It doesn't matter if it's McKinnon or McJesus or whoever. Slavin is out there.
He shuts
It's
these
gonna
guys
be
down.
fun. He just shuts them down. That's what he does on the regular. But those saves that Binnington made John Cooper look like a friggin' genius. You couldn't agree with him in the way he was handling the team until the end, and then he got to be the one, as we say about Jacob Slavin, I told you so. He got to do it to everyone else, and now all of Canada needs to owe Binnington an apology because of the saves he made. Those ones in overtime, 3 in a row in 15 seconds, Austin Matthews is never going to want to see Binnington again. There's no, I mean, honestly. And how about Brady Tkachuk, who couldn't have happened to a nicer guy? I know that we're here with a couple of Americans. Binnington's robbery in that Gumby save, and it was Gumby, or I mean, if you're like Inspector Gadget, Go Gadget arms save out of nowhere. It was mind blowing, and you just knew that if he could make that save at the end, that Canada was going to win.
Yeah.
But it was going to be a mistake that ended up being the difference.
Well, and the mistake was who was on the ice.
It was huge.
It wasn't. I mean, the players made mistakes, but the mistake started with who was on the ice for that phase.
There you go.
And as a hater, I'm still I hate Brad Marchand. I still respect his game. I hate Jordan Binnington, but he came up clutch.
He did.
We're doing for drinks. Can I get you another round? Same one?
Yeah.
Awesome.
We're trying to stay sober here in this one.
Okay.
But
I'm as long as I'm sober. I mean,
that you're the one.
Well, none of us are driving.
Yeah, no, that's right.
True.
Absolutely.
Being able to watch the game and walk across the street and go to bed sounds amazing.
Pretty nice.
Yeah.
What were your guys' thoughts for the final? I can assume.
Can I go first?
Yeah, 100% you can.
So
It's your show.
So I had a flight, so I had to be to catch the bus. I had to be there at 2 a.m. And so I put the game on and laid down and just listened to it. And I got as far as Jacob Slavin robbing Jarvis is the last memory I have of the game. So I'm done. I mean, I've seen the highlights. I mean, look, you couldn't ask for a better advertisement for hockey. You know, all-star games, we all say, like, so what?
All right, gentlemen.
But you couldn't ask for a better tournament to showcase what hockey can be about.
The side dishes on the way.
Thank you. So, but that's my piece. I'm short and sweet because I haven't seen the whole game. I've only seen the Sportsnet highlights. So, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, your point about it being great for hockey, I totally agree. The viewership numbers are incredible, and it was a fun game to watch. I thought the whole tournament was fun to watch, and having that opportunity to showcase the sport when there's really nothing else going on, right? NBA's in the All-Star week also, and nobody's interested in that. And baseball hasn't gotten going yet. Football's over, so it just could not have happened at a better time. You add this sort of geopolitical stuff to it to add a little heat to it. I think it was great for hockey. It's great for the players to be showcased like that. I mean, my only criticism would be they didn't find a way to include more teams. I feel like if we're going to let Russian players play in the league, why wouldn't we let... I mean, this isn't an IAH or whatever the international body is game. This is an NHL game. So I think it would have been nice to have a Russian team, maybe another Eastern European team or something. But otherwise, I thought the final was phenomenal. I thought everybody played pretty well. And it was just a really competitive, fun game to watch. I think it's great for hockey.
ElJay, what's your take on it?
I echo a lot of what Beth just said there. Just going back about Binnington, I'm sure you noticed at the end there, John Cooper kind of took him to the side and kind of whispered in his ear and just basically telling him, so I can imagine what he was saying, we don't win without you. He provided that opportunity because of those 3 unbelievable stops that he made. And I'm sure he's probably thanking Binnington as well for proving him right, but to keep him, like you were following up on your point about keeping him in there, being the goalie and being the guy.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. I hope, because I disagree wholeheartedly, we always got to go with the superstar, the guy who scores the game-winning goal, but there's no way Connor McDavid should have won. He even admitted, that was one of the worst games he's played. I watched. He was missing passes. He couldn't make a pass. Puck was hopping off his stick all the time. And he scored the game-winning goal, but he was left unchecked. Binnington by far was the game MVP, and I hope that whatever that was in that box that McDavid got for the game MVP just gave it to Binnington and said, "This is yours because you were the guy." Right?
Well, and to bring that to a nice fine point in what you said, because you're absolutely correct about that selection. When they put out the information on the 3 stars, Brady Tkachuk got the 3rd star for the Americans. How? I don't care if he scored a goal. Your best player, they had 2 best players ahead of Brady Tkachuk. Halibut and Jacob Slavin. Like those were your best.
Isn't that so the media still votes on those, right? And isn't that the reason that Jacob Slavin hasn't won a Norris? Because the league looks at offense. And so part of our trip today, I met Carolyn O and her family. We went to the Hockey Hall of Fame, and we were joking about when are they going to put in the Jacob Slavin Award for Best Defensive Defenseman?
Well, and that's it. You know what? That's the thing. If they were to ever hand out a defensive defenseman award, it would be named after Slavin. He couldn't win it because it would be named after him, and that's the best way to.
And to be fair, I think it was one of Carolyn's boys came up with Larry Robinson, who played for the team who shall not be named. Defenseman has a career set plus 722.
Blows your mind.
That blows your mind. I mean,
that's pretty talented.
For every goal he gave up, to get to a plus 722 is just
stellar.
I don't know where Jacob
will like them, but you got to respect them.
Right. You could be a hater and still go, okay, that guy's good, right?
It was sensational. Go ahead, ElJay.
I was just going to say, you're absolutely right. Honestly, I don't think they'll call it Jacob Slavin Award, but they have the best defensive forward award.
Right, you have a
Selke trophy. So why is there not I think the Norris Trophy was supposed to be best defensive initially, but then you had like Bobby Orr be the best player in hockey back in the 70s. And it kind of changed it to it more like who was best two-way defenseman, I guess you want to call that, like offense and defense, whatever. But why can there not be a defensive defenseman?
But even to your point, so the people who say it's about two-way play,
right?
Was it Carlson? I'm trying to think who won it for the Sharks. He was what, a minus like
5,000, I think. Minus 5,000
for every goal he scored. I mean, he had a 100-point season and still ended up minus 146, which means he was on the ice for almost 2 goals against per game at even strength. You can't tell me that's the best defenseman in the league.
No,
you can call him the best non-forward goal scorer in the league or something. You know what I mean? But that is not the best defenseman in the league. I don't care what your metric is.
In any event, Four Nations is something that needs to come back. Won't be back next year because, of course, we have the Olympics, and that's going to give us what we want as far as all of those extra countries, minus Russia. I'll say it again every time we talk about it. Putin, get the hell out of the Ukraine so we can have our hockey back.
Question.
Thank you.
In several Olympics recently, they've had like the not Russian but the Olympic team.
The team that has no name.
The team that has no name composed of Russians.
Named.
Do we know if that's going to happen for hockey? I haven't heard anything, but in the past several Olympics, they've had those it's like the Olympic team composed of Russians and people who could otherwise not.
And there's a couple.
I would love to see Svetch best on best.
Do you remember 1994? Sorry, Beth, they cut me off. I think they were called the CIS, the Commonwealth of Independent States. So something like that, and they flew the Olympic flag, I believe, was there.
Didn't they do that? They did that in Sochi as well.
I think
did
they
not?
did, yeah,
I mean, when they were hosting.
Yeah. I mean, Russia has a couple of things going on in international competition. One, things related to the war, and then also the doping scandals. And I don't know if the doping bans apply more broadly than the sports they were involved in, or if it's just for the speed sports and things that they have some doping violations for.
I haven't thought of that.
But I hope
that's a good point.
But I hope Russia is back. I mean, the players aren't at war. They let them play in the NHL. Let's just put them on the ice. That's my view.
If they can play in the NHL, they should be able to play.
I agree.
Agreed. And it would just be better hockey. And it's funny, after the game, we've got Canada in the locker room, spraying champagne everywhere, and singing "We Are the Champion of the World." And I'm thinking to myself, I wonder what Kochetkov, I wonder what Svechnikov have to say about that.
Yeah.
Because they weren't there. It's not the world. We are the champions of 4 nations.
And Kochetkov would probably maybe be my third goalie because on the defensive
Think
side,
about it.
you have Vasilevsky and Bobrovsky, who was both playing tremendous.
Yeah.
Like, with 4 nations talk, we talked a little bit about 4 nations should come back, the top 2 teams should stay, and they should rotate in. Because you bring in the Czechs, you bring in the Russians, and maybe, I don't know if any other country has enough players to have their own team, but you could have like a European team, and you rotate out. Top 2, it's the old playground when growing up in North Carolina playing basketball, winner stays, loser pays. So if you're in the finals, you come back the next year, the other 2 teams get swapped out for somebody else. Man, that would be amazing.
Look at the 2016 was the World Cup of Hockey. Was
Yeah.
that what it was called?
Yep.
Do you recall who was in the championship final of Canada?
And don't.
2016?
Team Europe.
Team
Right,
yeah.
right.
And they lost 2-1. Here's a bunch of players that are from all these different hockey federations. They had barely any practice time. And those guys came together and went to the final. And Russia was in that. All the big countries were there. And the only other gimmick was Team North America, the younger players, 23 and unders. But, they got to the final and lost 2-1. But they were right there. So why can't they do that again, right?
ElJay, that's a good point. First of all, before we continue on, we gotta say, all this time we've been served this meal. Let's reiterate how great the Signature Club, Air Canada's Signature Club, is. I don't think I've ever eaten this well before a hockey game in my life.
No. This is one of the best meals I've had.
This is, and it's unbelievable.
I want to endorse these truffle fries.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Everything is fantastic that they put in front of us.
The calamari was perfect, and that's really easy to make rubbery. The ceviche, that ceviche was very good. I just had a little bit, but my gosh.
Honestly, it's been fantastic. So we want to thank them again for giving us the opportunity to do this because, we can do these round tables anywhere. But could we do it in a place this great? No, absolutely not. And once again, we have Beth, and we have Beth to thank. And all of this, it gets even better because our server is also our guide to our seats, makes sure that we have everything taken care of. This is...
She was like, we're going to have dessert after the second period. I'm like, I've never had dessert at a hockey game. I've had Dippin' Dots at a hockey game.
But I'm in. Let's we've got a couple of things left to talk about before we can enjoy the rest of this without the mic on. Not that it's a big deal because, but first game back, I couldn't imagine a better team and a better test for both clubs.
Yeah.
Do you think, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I also think this could be a little hint at what the playoffs might look like this season. Both teams will be in, and while the Hurricanes in their history have done well against Toronto, this is a different team, different players. What's your take on the game tonight? What are you looking for specifically in tonight's game? ElJay, I'll start with you.
Because your mouth isn't full.
Yeah. Well, I think Fishy and Rantanen want to try to get something going because they, like I said, not so much Rantanen, but Fishy definitely struggled a bit in the tournament, so he wants to kind of get that righted. I know Rantanen struggle maybe is a strong word, but hasn't gone too smoothly yet since he's come to Carolina. So to kind of get that, still getting them on a bit of a roll would be huge. But I look at all the other players who weren't part of the tournament. I mean, they've been off with their families, vacation, got a nice little 2-week break there. Got a chance to reset and recharge. I'm sure they're willing to chomp at the bit to come out and they should be fresh and full of piss and vinegar, so to speak, and pretty excited to get out there. I'm sure the same with the Leaf players as well. But I heard tonight's goalie started for Carolina, Koketkov, I heard. So I'm sure he's a little bit miffed because the Russia wasn't in part of this tournament. I'm sure he would have been potential on that team. But I mean, he's going to be playing tonight. I'm sure he's been off for 2 weeks. He won his last couple of starts. I'm sure he wants to keep that going. And like I said, the third opponent, Toronto, is 2 points behind us in the standings officially. No, we're different divisions, but they both have an identical record. They're a good team. It's going to be a big test, so I'm excited about this. And the fact that I'm seeing it in Toronto here in the Signature Club just makes it unbelievable, right? So I'm really looking forward to the game.
Beth, what do you think? What are you looking for?
I'm looking for them to start on time. I think at the beginning of the season, when they got off to a hot start, the really defining feature of the game was from the first puck drop, they were playing aggressively, they were playing well, and it's probably been 2 months since we've really seen that consistently. So for me, what I'd love to see is them come back, first line of Aho, Rantanen, and Jarvis, and for them to just start hot, play hard from the beginning, get the first goal in the game, which has been hard to come by, it seems. And if we see that, I'll feel pretty good going into the rest of the season.
Brad, have the Hurricanes ever started on time this season? I can't remember.
Beginning of the season they did. I remember. I always, whenever the Canes win, I always watch the coach interview for the opposing team and see what they say about it. And that first West Coast road trip they did, they headed out to Seattle. I think it was Seattle, Vancouver, a couple of other teams. The defining comment that the opposing coaches were making was, these guys came and started on time. They got it to jump on us before we could even get into the game. And it hasn't been like that, like I said, for a couple of months. But when they play like that, they're almost unstoppable.
Good news is
we might have an influence on that. As we saw the players go in, we were all hollering at them, "Go get them, boys!" And we gave them a good.
Yeah, I think we definitely amped them up. Yeah, I think
we amped them up. They should show up on time. Sorry, man.
No, it's good. At least it's a 7:00 start time, East Coast. So we have that going for us because we know that the funky start times never do us any favors. For me, it needs to be a team effort. I don't want to see, if I see any of the lazy hockey we've seen at points in person, I don't want to get us thrown out, but I'll have words. I'm just saying. I will be close enough where I can talk to players directly, I think, and they will know I'm not happy. So most of the guys who needed it the most have had a vacation.
Right.
Brent Burns, specifically, I'm looking in your direction. Those guys have had a little over a week off, right? Practices picked up a couple of days ago. They should be back in the groove. You can't come out tired. You've had your break. We know we got 20-something games in 50-something days. It's a marathon, to the or a sprint to the end. So what I'm looking for is, do they come out and play as a team? If anybody's not pulling their weight, anybody looks slow, tired, that has to have ended with the break. So that's what I'm looking for. Is now I'm starting to go into playoff mode. We're less than 2 weeks from the trade deadline, March 7th. If anybody's not pulling their weight as of tonight, they need to be replaced in some way, limited minutes, whatever it's going to be, right? And that goes for anybody on the team. But something has to, you have a very short window now to make decisions about what your playoff team is going to look like. So much like Jarvis, his audition for the Olympics, you got 23 guys in the roster. This is your audition for the playoffs.
Yeah.
If you can't go tonight against the Maple Leafs in the Scotiabank, what are you doing here?
So what are you doing? Yeah. It's in front of all of Canada too. I mean, this is big night, a great way to get it restarted. Brad, while I'm busy hogging the mic for a while, I'm going to get you to look up the games that we have coming up after tonight and before we get to our next podcast, just to see the week that we're doing. We're looking at points.
Easy peasy.
That's why you need the brains of the operation.
We have Toronto tonight.
Toronto tonight, okay.
That's good. 'cause
We'll
we're in
release this
Toronto.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because we're in
Right,
Toronto,
though.
that makes sense. Easy week, not easy week. Simple week, I should say. You have the Habs away. Montreal's on Tuesday. We've got a lot of Caniacs who are here in Toronto tonight going to the Montreal game. We have Buffalo at home. And then we have Calgary at home on Sunday after we record, but it won't be out in time for that. So, 4 games.
Don't we have Edmonton or no?
Yeah. Edmonton on Saturday as well.
Oh, we do. So on the app, Edmonton is hidden away. We do. Back-to-back at home. Edmonton on Saturday, Calgary on Sunday. So it's not an easy week.
We have a bunch of Canadian teams.
The team that shall not be named is in there, so there's 2 points. Right, for us.
Yeah. I mean, it's Buffalo, but Buffalo actually plays really well
Are they your
sometimes.
team that shall not be
Didn't
named?
we lose in Buffalo?
I think so.
Yeah, look, no points are easy points. That's why we play the games, right? And when I say we, I mean the proverbial. If they put you and I on the ice,
We'd win.
And don't forget, it's Whalers night. They usually come out a little bit more jacked when they put the green and blue
there's
on.
never a bad time to see those Whalers
That's great.
jerseys.
It's a good old Adams Division battle with the Buffalo Sabres.
The return of the blue practice jerseys.
Oh, yeah.
Does that mean we finally get a blue Whalers jersey? Because I have been waiting. That's complete speculation. So it's probably at least as good as like
Now,
Tony A from the HL in terms of what's true.
I know how much everyone's liked it. That was probably my least favorite of the Whalers jerseys. I
Crazy.
love them all. But that was like talking 1A, 1B. Like, honestly, best logo in sport, bar none. And Beth wearing it proudly here in Toronto, which I absolutely love. Look, the points, I think, with so many games in such a short time, you have to make hay while the sun shines, to use one of my dad's colloquialisms. You've got to really put the hammer down and get it done. We've got 4 players who are part of the 4 nations. I want to see them be the best players on the ice, just like they're the best players in the world. Let's see it tonight, up close and personal. I think with 5 games, 10 points out there in this week before we get back, I want at least 7 points. I want at least 7. We really need to blow the short as he set the tone. We got to set the tone. What do you got? Like, what are you going to be happy with? 10 points available. What are you looking for, ElJay? Sorry, we'll go to Beth. Beth, how many points are you looking at with 5 games, 10 points available? What do you think?
I'd like to see 8.
8? Ooh.
They had the best record in the second half of the season last year. They can do it. They're capable of it.
Setting the tone. That would be a good way to set it.
Brad.
Not that I'm not as optimistic, but weird things happen, right?
No.
As long as they win tonight, then they can get 6 points. If they lose tonight, they owe me 8. Because I want to see a win. I want to walk out of Scotiabank feeling 10 feet tall and bulletproof.
And look, the Oilers got spanked today in Philly. They got blown out of the water. Some might say, well, McDavid might have been tired and all the rest of it. Should have had the weekend off. Whatever. It doesn't matter. You play the games for the points. ElJay, where are you at?
Well, I think I'm on board with you. I'd say 7 points. It is a lot of games in a compressed schedule, but guess what? It's the same for everybody else. Both Edmonton and Calgary are on extended road trips. It's about right in the middle of their road trip. Carolina, you'd think in theory would be at a bit of a disadvantage for the back-to-back. Edmonton on Saturday, Calgary on Sunday, but I just looked at Calgary's schedule. They're in Florida. So that actually plays really into our favor there, and obviously that's a very beatable team. So I feel that, I think 7 points is a pretty realistic expectation. Maybe even 8. Yeah, I think a minimum 7 out of 10. I think that'd be a pretty solid.
Things are getting really hopping in the Air Canada Signature Club where we are. Things are getting excited. Players just took the ice. Everyone's jacked up. We're going to wrap things up. Before we do, thank you to our guests, both ElJay and Beth. I mean, making this all happen for us. We are living a dream.
It's better than friends.
Better than friends. Happy to be your hired goons whenever you need it. Okay? You can count on Fat Raymond being there, the mafia guy, to show up and give you whatever support you need wherever you are in the world. Thank you for the opportunity. ElJay, you know what? We don't get together enough. We live like half an hour away from each other.
I was saying,
you
came 1,000 miles to see each other.
Yeah, no, that's
Isn't that crazy? That's a long way. And Brad, I get to see you again. Like, this is the second time.
Three times now.
3 times
now. 3 times in 25 years.
That's, nothing says friendship like only seeing each other.
And Jarvis is on the monitor.
You gotta love it.
Somebody turn it up.
So Jarvis getting his proper, attention as well he should.
From the Canadian media.
Exactly. A fantastic episode, so much fun. Thank you for joining us. But really, there's only one thing left to say.
Go Canes!
Go Canes!
Go Canes!
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Ray and I greatly appreciate your support in helping us produce an informative and fun podcast. As always, we'd like to say that we believe hockey is for everyone. Whether you're a Caniac or a bunch of jerks, doesn't matter, as we're just a couple of jerks anyway. We would love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. We will do our best to answer anything hockey related. You can reach us via email at stormcellar97@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are at stormcellar97, and on Facebook at facebook.com/stormcellar97.